What's up guys, Chris here from Mainely Mesh. Today I'm going to be taking you through a review of the new Maverik Kinetik. What's up guys, Chris here from Mainely Mesh. Today I'm going to be taking you through a review of the brand new Maverik Kinetik head. The Maverik Kinetik is Maverik's annual July 4th head release. They always put out a head on July 4th. It's made in the US. Starting back, I think did they start with the tank or the optic? What's kind of interesting about Maverik is they don't remake old heads like other brands do. They come up with a new design every time they make a head. They try to start from scratch, see how they can make the best head possible, which leads to some pretty unique designs like the Kinetik. The first and probably most important talking point about the Kinetik is the bottom rail. So Maverik calls this a level 4 bottom rail. If you guys aren't familiar with Maverik, they have a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest pocket, 5 being the highest pocket. So this being put at a 4 is a pretty high pocket as far as Maverik goes. What's kind of interesting is they also call the Centric a level 4, but really the comparison ends there. The Centric ends up sitting a lot lower, whereas this does have a lot higher pocket. The second thing everybody picked up on when the pre-release pictures came out of this head was the face shape. So it has a very kind of tight but gradual flare to it. Something that's a little bit reminiscent of the CEO, but not quite as pinched. The CEO does kind of stay more pinched higher in the head and then flares out a little bit more dramatically. This has a pretty gradual flare, so actually where the ball would sit according to the bottom rail is pretty wide. That width where the bottom rail is at its deepest creates some pretty interesting feelings when playing around this head, with this head. Pinch really affects pocket placement more so than I talk about. And basically the rule of thumb is the tightest spot on the head is where the pocket will naturally be the deepest according to the mesh. Gravitationally, the lowest point of the bottom rail is where the ball is going to sit. So when you're combining a bottom rail that sits high with a face shape that's actually pushing the ball a little low, you get this kind of feel where when cradling one-handed, the ball can kind of shift down low, but right when you start to wind up into your shot, the ball kind of shifts higher right under those shooting strings. As I was stringing this up, I was pretty worried, but once I actually got around and passed with it, it does have a super smooth feel. It's got something that's pretty unique compared to the rest of the market in terms of how it kind of transitions into that shifty pocket. So if you're one of those people that really like something like that, a nice shifty pocket, a two-handed player who likes to cradle one-handed occasionally but really is worried about winding up a lot of the time, then maybe this is the head for you. That being said, if the intention of this design was to create a truly high pocket, I'm not sure they hit their mark. It's something where the ball does naturally want to sit a little bit lower just because of the pinch. So in order to really get that solid, firm high pocket, they would have had to pinch it a little bit more up top in the head. Now, personally, when I am trying to string a high pocket, I like it to sit a little bit more statically up top just so I know where the ball is and I can have a little bit more consistency. Like I said, when I was actually playing with this, I was pretty pleasantly surprised how consistent it was. So I'm not going to knock it too much. But I probably would have changed the flare of the face shape a little bit. The other thing you worry about with a high pocket is the lie of the head, something Epic talks about a lot. You want to make sure that lie isn't too low because then it's not going to have enough whip, and you want to make sure that lie isn't too high because then it's going to have too much whip. Maverik did nail it, absolutely nail it with this head. It's something where the ball's going to sit high, but it doesn't have too much whip. It's got a nice snap to it when it shoots. Check mark there, Maverik. The other big thing I was really looking for at this head was the scoop. It's something Maverik doesn't always nail and really was the only reason why I was looking to potentially move away from the Optic U as my gamer. And really, Maverik crushed this one. Whew. The two things I look for in a scoop are A, the angle of the scoop kind of in the classical sense. So if you have too flat of a scoop, yes, that's trying to push you into scooping with a really flat stick, getting both butts down, fundamentally correct. But if we're being honest, that's not how we do it in a game most of the time. A lot of times we're on the run, maybe we're trying a one-handed pickup. You do want to be able to have a smooth scoop at a 45-degree angle if possible, and they really just do a nice job here. It's super smooth. I might have flattened it out a little bit more, but overall it's a really solid scoop. The second huge thing I look for is the curvature of the scoop. To me, The perfect scoop is circular. It's not flat like a shovel. It's circular. It goes on the edge of a circle because it needs to rotate around the axis of the shaft and still maintain a flat point with the ground at all times. We don't always scoop through vertically like this. Sometimes we're coming in at an angle. And if a scoop is completely flat like a shovel or like a flat shovel, you're gonna catch an edge and it's gonna dig into the ground. Maverik really nailed this one here, and I was pretty worried because this is a pretty pointed scoop, and not a lot of people with pointed scoops, or not a lot of heads in the past with pointed scoops, have been that clean. I'm looking at you, CEO. But Maverik crushed it. Really excited to see them finally have a head with a really solid scoop. The other thing Maverik likes to do is introduce one new piece of technology with every head. This time around, it was the tension lock technology, which is a really interesting feature I'm gonna take you through. Basically what Maverik did here is at the upper third of the sidewall stringing holes, they put a little kink in the bottom of the bottom rail so that it pulls the plastic to the outside and inherently the mesh. As a result, sequence. A really clever technology for sure. Not really sure how it fits with this head in particular for two reasons. First is the placement on a high pocket head. When I'm stringing a high pocket head, I don't necessarily want a ton of tension across the top because the ball is already sitting very high. If I have a lot of tension, that's a pretty steep slope, and it's not really giving the ball any travel time at all, which is going to decrease consistency. So it might technically have a quicker release, but it might only be moving 2 or 3 inches in the pocket, and sometimes it can get caught. It's just a little bit riskier. So personally, when I string higher pockets, I like to have a little bit of a looser top, which is kind of counteracting the goal of this tension lock in the Kinetik. It's really not a big deal, but it is something that I thought I had to kind of actively string around. The second thing I might have changed here is it's a very dramatic change from the wide section of the tension lock into the narrow section. And honestly, for where my knots were transitioning, I hadn't even got into the most pinched part of the head yet, and it just seemed a little too drastic for me. As you can see here, I had to really try to string to the inside, and it just kind of didn't really have a nice spot where I could have put it on top, where I could have put it all the way on the inside. I really just would have liked to see a more gradual transition, and hopefully they introduce this technology into future heads. I'm kind of secretly hoping they make a low pocket head next year and bring this technology in, because I think it could really be an awesome feature on something like an Optic 2.0, which I've been begging them to make forever. I don't know if they will, but that's what I would hope for. As far as construction and durability goes, interesting choices here by Maverik. They went with essentially a singular strut. There is a second strut at the lower part of the head, and structurally speaking, it helps to have 2 to 3 struts at the very least. Having them go with pretty much just one is a very bold move, but with that X-Rail technology that they debuted in the Tactic, it feels super stiff. I think they have something up their sleeves that I don't really understand from an engineering perspective. The X-Rail is kind of magic to me. I don't really get how that works. I'm used to I-beams and all that junk, but really solidly constructed. It feels super stiff. The other nice thing is a lot of that weight is centered towards the bottom of the head. So although it's a light head coming in at 4.8 ounces, light-ish, a lot of that weight is centered towards the bottom of the head, which gives it a really solid feel in your stick. It's nicely balanced. This is on a hyper light right now, which is a super light shaft, and it still sits pretty vertically in my hand. Last talking point, which is funny that it's the last for a Mainely mesh video, is stringability, okay? As far as stringability goes, just would really like to see Maverik add 1 or 2 more sidewall holes. Same issue I had with the Tactic. The construction was awesome, loved the offset, loved a lot of the features of the head, the construction, the durability. I just needed 1 or 2 more sidewall holes to kind of adjust that spacing between knots, because there was a lot of times I was either a little bit too pulled tight or a little pulled too loose for the knots I was going for. So they've kind of dropped it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
I mean, 17 is a lot. I just want 1 more, maybe 2. All in all, guys, I think this is an incredible head. I think its target audience ends up being a little more narrow than Maverik was hoping for, though. So Maverik is kind of targeting this for an elite attackman. I think they had Joe Walters using it. Personally, I think Joe Walters is an interesting choice because he is a bit more of a box guy. He does use 2 hands a little bit more often, so I think it would suit him. But to me, this head is more designed for a 2-handed player and not really a 1-handed player. It doesn't quite sit low enough. The shifting to the higher pocket, I think, creates a little bit of a weird feel when you're doing quick feeds, which is something that an attackman I feel like uses a little bit more than a midfielder. So I would kind of push this recommendation more into the midfield side of things. On the offensive side, if you do like some two-handed cranks, and that's where I would kind of keep it. I don't think I would really push you as an attackman who plays two-handed to the tactic over the optic U. So the nice thing is Maverik absolutely has a recommendation for pretty much every player in their repertoire right now, between the optic, the centric, the tactic, and now the kinetic, and even the critic for that kind of lower price point. So they have a really awesome, pretty full lineup right now once they redo the tank, because the tank is kind of a little bit behind the times at the moment. But this is a pretty slim type of player that I would recommend this for. Range of player. I'm losing it. All in all, really well done, Maverik. Thanks so much for sending me one of these to check out. Now the ball is in my court to try to find the perfect pattern before I give you guys my tutorial on how to string it. Gonna dig into this bad boy a little bit more because I have a feeling there might be something funky I can do to make this as good as possible. Thanks so much, guys. You guys know the deal. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, the usual. Make sure you guys subscribe to me on Instagram at Mainely Mesh. Yada, yada, yada. Thanks so much. Click the link down below if you want to buy this head. Catch you guys next time.